Tonight, how much time do you spend online?
We're the online generation now. Technology makes us, in a sense, too connected, almost addicted sometimes.
But is technology damaging our relationships?
I don't put Stewart ahead of the gadgets most of the time. I don't mean to, I don't do it in a harsh way, but Stewart does come second to the internet sometimes, and he's fully aware of that.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. Over the last decade, digital technology has transformed the way we live, work and communicate. But leading neuroscientists are warning that over-dependence on devices like smartphones, tablets and laptops could be having a negative impact on our behaviour. Tonight, Jonathan Maitland asks, is technology taking over our lives?
Gadgets. Once upon a time, we used them to make our lives easier. They entertained us, helped us save time and keep in touch. They transformed our lives. Even so, as recently as the 80s, few of us had even the most basic PC or mobile phone. Back then, we filled our lives with all sorts of clutter and gadgets, but then we had to, if we wanted to take photographs, listen to music, make calls, or find out information. But these days we don't need to fill our houses with all of this stuff because we have something that fits into the palm of a hand which can do it all, which is pretty amazing, really.
I think over the last 10 years, technology has really changed the way that we live our lives. So whether it's banking online, shopping online, paying utility bills online, even socialising on sites like Facebook and Twitter, and for some people even finding their prospective partner online, it really is across every aspect of our daily lives.
But has this infatuation with technology gone too far? Some fear that our need to be constantly connected is changing our behaviour and affecting our relationships, as well as adding to our stress.
We're the online generation now. Technology makes us, in a sense, too connected, almost addicted sometimes.
Our Tonight survey seems to back that view up. Of 2,000 questioned, 65% said they spend up to 5 hours a day online. The young, in particular, seem to have something of an addiction when it comes to Facebook, with 1 in 9 admitting to checking it up to 20 times a day. Apparently, they set huge store by what's called their online appearance.
Social networking sites are so important in our daily lives now, and I think people find it really, really important to be liked online, socially and even amongst their peers. It's a very important thing not only to be liked in person, but to be liked online as well.
One expert who specialises in the effects of the virtual world is neuroscientist Professor Susan Greenfield. What are your concerns about people's excessive use of social media?
What I do have great problems with is the impact when they're used to the exclusion or as a substitute for real life and real life relationships. For young people especially, if you're not rehearsing, giving someone a hug, smiling at someone, looking someone in the eye, interpreting body language, interpreting voice tone, of course you're not going to be good at it. And my fear is if you're not then good at it, you will prefer to text rather than speak to someone.
In fact, the internet's recently been dubbed electronic cocaine because, like the drug, the habit of constantly checking your emails and social media is a habit that's very hard to break. How important do you think this issue is of using social media and the internet too much?
I think it's as global and as long-reaching and as important to every aspect of our lives as is climate change.
Katie and her husband Stewart are both 26 years old and new parents to baby Willow. The internet, on the other hand, is just 21 years old, and this couple have been submerged in it for vast chunks of their adult lives. What percentage of your waking day is spent online?
I would say 98%, because even if I'm doing something else, the laptop is there and I'm doing something on it or occupied, but my phone is always on me. I'm looking at it constantly. I'm never without it, and if I am, you have that mini heart attack where you're like, where is it? You know, even though if I haven't left the house, I'll still think I've left it on a bus.
Has it caused problems with your relationship?
Not problems, we bicker over it. Sometimes he'll just sigh and roll his eyes, and I know exactly what it is. It's because I have just constantly been on my phone and ignored him for half an hour.
The phone is the other man.
Yes, that's right.
Do you get jealous?
Yes, I don't know, I think I do, yeah.
Katie admits to being a social networking addict, online for up to 12 hours a day. While Stewart is a keen online gamer. We asked them both to take an internationally recognised internet addiction test to see just how connected they really are.
How often do others in your life complain to you about the amount of time you spend online? Often.
How often do you find yourself saying just a few more minutes when online? Quite often.
How often do you lose sleep due to late night logins? Often. It's usually on my phone while I'm laid in bed.
The test assesses your relationship with the internet and is scored out of 100. Interestingly, you, Stewart, scored 31.
Hey, look at that.
You are an average user. You may surf a bit too long at times, but you have control over your usage.
Okay.
You, on the other hand, Katie, scored 52. You experience occasional or frequent problems because of the internet, and you should consider the full impact on your life.
Halfway to crazy.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I would say that was pretty accurate. I was thinking it would be higher, actually, but maybe I wasn't quite honest with myself.
Katie is honest enough to admit that she perhaps pays more attention to the net than she does Stewart, and that their communication has suffered as a result. So could living without their gadgets improve things? We decided to pull the plug on their digital world to find out. Right, the experiment is about to start. I want you to go upstairs and around the house and get all your technological gadgets, bring them here, and we're going to lock them away. Off we go. It's a digital detox. No virtual worlds, texts, tweets or updates. Laptops, mobile phones, games consoles and the internet are all banned. Right, all of your gadgets are now in those boxes, and the rules are that you can't use any of them for the next 48 hours, and if you have to communicate with someone because of an emergency, you can use something called a landline, which is gathering dust in your front room there. And we're going to lock everything away now.
Right.
Okay. It's going to be an interesting weekend, especially for Katie, who gets itchy if she's offline for minutes, let alone hours. We'll catch up with them later in the programme.
So how do you feel about it?
I may kill you.
The one gadget that's probably responsible more than any other for us being constantly connected is the smartphone. It's actually more of a handheld computer than a phone, and 40% of adults and 60% of teenagers now own one. A number that is clearly set to rise.
Now, normally you would only get queues like this for an A-list celebrity, perhaps, in town to promote their latest film. But the thousands of people here this morning aren't gathering for a human being, but because they want to get their hands on the latest bit of smartphone technology.
It's the much-coveted iPhone 5, and some have been waiting here for a very long time indeed.
Maitland's fast asleep, as are most people here.
It's 8:30 a.m. and third in this large and excitable queue are Ben and Eamon.
How long have you guys been queuing for?
What time is it now? It is
Nearly 48 hours.
Yeah, nearly 48 hours.
Would you like to tell us why?
I enjoy the atmosphere. I get to meet loads of interesting people. There's guys here doing it for charity, there's guys here just doing it for fun, there's guys here that have flown from Italy, from Norway, from Russia. You get to meet all these interesting people.
Using a very old piece of technology, I can tell you that the shop is going to be opening in under half an hour. You've been queuing for 2 days. You excited?
Yes, definitely.
As the clock strikes 9, the doors open with a bit of a fanfare and the boys are in. Apple started the smartphone phenomenon just 5 years ago when the market was pretty much static, but now, globally, it's worth over £100 billion.
If I took this phone away from you, could you live without it?
Please don't.
No.
Please don't. I don't want anyone to take this phone away from me right now.
Have you been brainwashed?
I do wonder sometimes.
I know I
blame him.
The average UK home now has 3 internet-enabling devices, and in our survey, 70% of those asked said they felt stressed if they couldn't get online. Because we love our gadgets, it's easy to overlook, I think, the effect they have on our lives. Because once we used to go to our jobs, come home, and that'd be it. We could pretty much switch off from our work. But now, thanks to all this new technology, we're digitally tied to our work almost 24/7. For many of us, there is no escape. Our survey found that 40% of respondents were answering work emails at weekends and on holiday. And UK workers now put in over 2 hours of work after their day in the office.
We have to find a better balance, not only for our health and the health of our families and our relationships outside, but actually for the productivity and performance of our businesses.
This is Mike Brogan. He and his team rely on digital technology for business. But Mike is concerned that his team spend too long working online after hours. And he also worries about their dependence on email to communicate with each other. Professor Carey Cooper reckons this dependence could be harming the business's productivity. But he has a plan.
We're here today to conduct an experiment, and we're very fortunate to have Carey Cooper here, psychologist from Lancaster University, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing today.
Thanks, Mike. We have a number of rules. From noon today, all internal emails will be banned for the rest of the week. So you'll have to communicate eyeball to eyeball, face to face with all your colleagues. No texts, calls, emails, anything at all to do with work after hours. This should be a fun week. Let's try to get our life back. We're currently the servant to the technology. We have to take over, become the master. And if we do that properly, then I think we'll get the benefits of better work-life balance, more team building, a better culture in the organization, much more of a buzz, and better morale. So, Mike, tell me why you're doing this experiment.
I think it's bringing people back to being people. At the moment, we've got an awful lot of technology which is intruding on the relationships between people. My current thinking at the moment is that we're something of a slave to technology, and I'd like to reverse that.
So for the next 5 days, internal emails are banned, and there's a curfew on working outside of the office.
Don't quite know how I'm going to get all my work done between the normal working hours and not using the email or phones before work or after work, because I am naughty at doing both.
Do I check my emails outside of work hours? Yes. Do I do it when I'm on holiday? Yes. Do I do it at the weekend? Yes. And I think that worse than that, I tend to use the evening to try and catch up on emails. But because everybody else is doing that, it's a bit of a negative because people keep replying.
High noon. The last email is sent and the new regime begins.
I think they're going to have real trouble turning their smartphones off. I think it'll be almost like withdrawal symptoms. But after 3 or 4 days, I think it'll become easier, just like any addiction.
We'll catch up on these gadget junkies too later in the week. It's an accepted part of modern-day life, then, that many of us spend vast periods of time submerged online, updating our statuses, tweeting, emailing, or just playing games. But the big question is, what is this sustained electronic bombardment, if you like, doing to our brains?
OK, so these are scans, brain scans, human brain scans, in a very interesting study that was recently published from China that involved 2 groups of 19-year-old subjects, and the group that they called as having internet addiction disorder was spending on average 10 hours a day in front of the screen. You can see these red marks here. These are the areas of interest, and I'll say interest rather than concern, where you're seeing a shrinkage in certain brain areas only in the group that were spending 10 hours a day on the internet.
This seems to show that using the net for 10 hours a day seems to shrink certain parts of the brain.
Excessive use of the internet is associated with shrinkage of certain parts of the brain.
The changes were in the parts of the brain that control attention and emotional processing. They were similar to the changes found by research into other addictions, including alcohol and cocaine.
The bottom line is you think we need more studies like this?
Totally. Well, as I say, in science, a study like this, which was pioneering and very interesting, is the beginning, not the conclusion. It starts to say, look, there's grounds for further investigation, surely.
Concern about the internet's effect on our health may be growing then, but there is, of course, another side to all this, because in our survey, 62% of those questioned believed that technology had changed their lives for the better. And it certainly has for 36-year-old Barry West. 17 years ago, he was a fit and healthy teenager, but then a road accident left him paralysed from the neck down. He's managed to live independently